Good afternoon. My name is Jill Allen, and this is my Experience Art Project body of work for College for America. Today, we're going to review a number of famous paintings and sculptures that range in their creation period from the 14th century to the 20th century AD. Following this review, we will focus on two of these artworks to review the differences and similarities. Our first painting today, the Lamentation, the Mourning of Christ, created by Giotto di Bondone, mostly referred to as simply Giotto, was completed in 1306. This fresco painting can be found in Scrovegni Arena Chapel in Padua, Italy. A fresco is a mural painting directly on plaster, and therefore many of this type in the early Renaissance period can be found in church buildings. During this period, many artists worked directly for the church and contributed their works to the decoration of the walls of churches to depict the life and death of Jesus. The Lamentation subject matter is presumably after the crucifixion, when Jesus' followers were weeping over him. The viewer will note that Jesus' head is resting in the lap of his mother Mary, with angels hovering above. The way in which she is holding and looking at Jesus can be directly aligned with other works of the birth of Christ. All figures, and even the landscape in the painting, point toward Jesus, so much so that even two of the figures have their backs to the viewer and others with their faces partially obscured, all to draw the eye toward Jesus. This statue of David was sculpted by the artist Donatello in 1440 during the Italian Renaissance period, and is a large bronze statue that depicts David standing over the head of Goliath, who he had just slain. In his left hand, he holds a rock, which we presume was the rock used to slay the giant, as told in the Bible stories. It's important to note that this sculpture was the first freestanding nude statue since the classic Roman and Greek classic antiquity periods. This statue identified with the Florentine people, as they were a small group yet were able to defeat their enemies, similar to the story of David. Donatello dedicated his life to the Medici family in Florence, and as such, this statue is displayed at the Palazzo del Bargello in Florence. The Elevation of the Cross. This beautiful yet dark oil on canvas painting was painted by Peter Paul Rubens in 1611 during the Baroque period and can be found at the Cathedral of Our Lady of Antwerp, Belgium. This painting was a commissioned piece by the Catholic Church. Called the Elevation of the Cross, the subject of this painting is that of the men who were responsible to lift Christ, already nailed to the cross, upright so the crucifixion execution could begin. It is evident how difficult this is by all the muscle tension shown in the characters, as you would imagine or see someone at the gym lifting heavy weights. All characters, with the exception of Jesus, are dark, muscular, and gleaming with sweat from their efforts. Jesus is depicted as pale, more slight than the rest, and appears to be looking up toward the heavens, perhaps communicating with God. Again, we note with this painting, the angle of the subjects as well as the cross direct the viewer's eye toward Jesus, and then Jesus' eyes point us upward. In 1784, artist Jacques-Louis David created the Oath of Horati. This oil-on-canvas painting can be found in the Louvre, Paris, and depicts three brothers who have volunteered to go off and fight in honor of their village. According to the reviewers on Khan Academy, this was a common method of war at the time between Rome and Alba. Each city would select their 3 best and bravest soldiers to go to battle so that the entire cities were not decimated by the tragedy of war with all the men fighting. The brothers in this painting have taken the oath to fight to the death in honor of their city and are reaching toward their swords, which are being given to them by their father. The women in their lives are behind the father, lamenting the brothers going off to fight. Notice how the men stand strong, tall, and erect, and the women are buckled over with their limbs weak and limp as if they have no strength to go forward or have given up. In 1863, by Edouard Manet, this oil on canvas painting shocked viewers when first displayed, as many factors of the painting indicate the subject matter is a prostitute. Details such as the figure looking directly at the viewer, the black cat, which was a symbol of prostitution, the orchid in her hair, her earrings, and how she ignores her servant bringing her flowers are noted. Additionally, the name Olympia was a common pseudonym for a prostitute. Nudes were not uncommon during this period. However, this painting seems to be directly similar right down to the pose of the figure to older paintings and drawings of Venus. This painting, however, was not idealized like many of the former Venus paintings, but was more realistic. Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. The final painting we will highlight today was painted in 1907 by Pablo Picasso, one of the most famous cubists of the era. This oil on canvas can be found in the Museum of Modern Art and is said to be the first cubist painting of its time. Similar to the Manet painting of Olympia, it is thought these women may be prostitutes because of their nudity and the way they look directly at the viewer in addition to their poses. It is said that the original sketches of this work included a man presumed to be a medical student carrying a skull. However, the final painting excluded that feature. Now we will perform a compare and contrast review of Rubens' Elevation of the Cross and Giotto's Lamentation. These two paintings are both similar in that they both center on Jesus, yet they are resoundingly different. The Elevation of the Cross depicts Christ prior to his death, just after he is nailed to the cross. It appears the figures in the painting are straining to hoist the heavy cross along with his body fragilely nailed to the cross into an upright position. The opposite is occurring in the Lamentation scene. Here we see Christ's followers hovering over his body, which is laid out on the ground with his head in Mary's lap. The elevation scene is dark in the background, and even the colors used to create the garments of the other participants of the painting being dark and shadowed, whereas the Lamentation scene is softer with lighter colors. In similarity, the angles used in each of the paintings point to Christ. In the elevation scene, all arms, hands, and faces are pointing or lifting toward Christ. In the Lamentation scene, all faces are looking onto the body of Christ. Even the angle of the rock behind the figures lifts your eye toward the sky, only to find the angels looking down to Christ. Finally, while these scenes seem different, each of these paintings are actually similar in their content, as they both include the final day of Jesus' life, just from two different perspectives.